Slide number one, let me tell you a little bit about who I am. My name's Alexandra. I like to think of myself first and foremost as a hypnotherapist. I've been practicing hypnosis for 15 years. And as she said, I've worked with anybody from celebrities and CEOs all the way down to children. The mission is to really help people create change in a manner that maybe they didn't know was accessible to them previously. My mission also became really important that I wanted to bring hypnosis to the forefront. So when I started doing hypnotherapy back in 2009 and studying it, I realized I was like, God, no one knows what this is. People have seen the movies, they've seen it on stage shows, but people aren't realizing that right now it's actually being utilized in top hospitals. In fact, in New York City, it's at Mount Sinai. They have a whole division for it. It's also over at Penn. So it is, I wanted to make it. When I did my research when I first started, I was like, wow, there's a lot of wacky woo-woo stuff. And for me to say woo-woo, what you probably don't know about me is I'm the founder of a spa up in New York where I created Modern Sanctuary. It was a 16-room spa surrounded by a Himalayan salt room. We had everything from crystal healing to plastic surgery. So when I say woo-woo, I have gone down that crazy rabbit hole. And so I kept looking at all this stuff. I'm like, why is there not this like science-based, it is scientific. And I studied conservation biology in college. So I was like, how do we mix my scientific brain with hypnosis and really make it digestible? Whether it was luck or because I was doing something right in marketing wise at the time, I got recognized by a lot of different periodicals who wanted to write articles. And Olivia Munn was lucky enough to have been talking about it at the time for her movie that she was doing, helped her lose weight and get fit. And everything just sort of manifested, ended up getting awarded one of New York City's top hypnotherapists, and have just been really loving what I do ever since. And so the mission still continues today to help bring hypnotherapy to people. And that's what it was my pleasure when the Walnut Club asked if I'd be willing to give a talk on it, to say absolutely yes. And to also finally bring to the market my app Go Burble, which some of you have heard about, some of you are using, some of you are at my pitch competition. So we did here. And so it's exciting to be here. Luckily, like Modern Wellness, which was a spa that Danielle and I sort of created together here. Another rendition was also nominated as one of Philly's best as well. So it's all really exciting. I'm a wellness entrepreneur through and through, but first and foremost, I like to say my hat is as a hypnotherapist. So, what is hypnosis? The big question everybody wants to know. Yes, it does exist in stage hypnosis shows. It does get talked about in movies, right? If you have kids, you've seen Captain Underpants. You've seen the movie Get Out, where they're spinning the spoon. But hypnosis is a state that you actually have gone through because all of you are alive in this room. You've gone through it twice already today, and probably more than you think. So you go through hypnosis once when you wake up in the morning and once when you fall asleep at night. So it is a natural state. It's so if this is awake and this is sleep, all of this space as you're falling asleep is the hypnotic state. Surprise. So what else can I tell you? It is a deep state of relaxation with an acute focus. And what happens on a scientific level is that our brain is actually changing. You can measure the hypnotic states. So again, we know it's scientific because as you're going from the awake state, your brain waves are changing. So you can use like an EEG machine to actually monitor the mind to go, oh, the mind right now is in a beta state. They're relaxing now. They're going into alpha, theta, gamma, delta, wherever it is. So it is a measurable state. And we know what happens. We're going to get into what happens a little bit in a minute. We know that when the mind relaxes, it becomes much more suggestible. So hypnosis, what we do is we are quieting your body. We're relaxing the body, right? We're then focusing the mind in to then provide suggestion of how life can look or be or feel. You're never under my control. That would be insane, but I'd also be charging way more and be a billionaire because I'd have the silver bullet technique. That's what I would call it, I've decided. And you would never do anything you wouldn't want to do. And I think that's a really important thing because 9 out of 10 people are like, oh my God, are you going to make me do this? Or quack like a duck, right? We've all seen that. And I love that. I actually love when people, it does not degrade my art. I love when people ask me because you should think that. That's your first association. So let's talk about association. Hit it. Theory of the mind. Consider this for me. Your mind is made into two parts that we look at as behaviorists. There's the conscious mind. This is where your logic, your reason, your willpower, your deductive reasoning, it lives all here in your conscious mind. How often do we live logically during the day, right? We have to make sense of things. We have to rationalize it, deductively reason it. Guess what? It makes up 5% of your mind, just 5. Everything else is your subconscious and unconscious, right? Your primitive ways of being, but it's not dictated by willpower. That's up here in your conscious. And so where I work and other like people, Danielle does shadow work. That's all in the unconscious mind, which is even deeper than the subconscious, but it's all part of this big 95% package, is we work in the subconscious. So what I like to look for is how did the behavior that you have that maybe you want to shift get developed, right? Because a lot of the times people are going to come into my office and say, I don't sleep. And my story is I'm an insomniac, right? And my belief is I'm never going to change. And they're going to try with willpower alone and all of these things to shift it, but they're working in the 95%. They're also working on sleep with it, which is the presenting problem. It is not the subconscious's underlying cause of the association you've created around sleep that is causing you not to be able to sleep. And so my job is to go in and to start asking questions, open-ended questions to help you and me dig down from what's the presenting problem, what's the story around it, where does that come from, when did this start? Because from the way the subconscious works is from the moment that you're born until today, everything is learned through association. Everything, right? You're born with 2 fears, arguably 3, which we love to talk about. Fear of falling and loud noise. So if you have children, it's interesting to see they are learning everything as you go. They are not born with a fear of you yelling at them. They learn that yelling leads to consequences, right? And so everything is learned. And our mind then takes these things that we're learning and it categorizes them into pain, pleasure, safety. Your subconscious mind, it does not care if you're happy. It wants to keep you safe, right? And so if it's safe, it's great. If it's not safe, then it's going to create coping mechanisms around it too. And so I need to understand, like, where are those associations that are created? You get bit by a dog and you develop a fear, you create a coping mechanism, right? I'm going to stay back, even though your logical mind's like, it's a chihuahua, it's tiny, it's on a leash, it's behind a fence. You're still going to have that behavioral response first and foremost. And that's fine, right? I have no issue with any association any person in this room or any client in the world has made unless it's a problem for them. And that's my hypnosis standpoint. My other judgmental side will say otherwise. But if it's a problem for you, that's where we work because maybe your coping mechanism works for you, right? How many, like, it's a great thing to sometimes be a people pleaser. And if it's not a problem for you, we don't make problems in my office. We find the ones that are holding you back from accomplishing what it is that you want, or coping mechanisms, or behaviors, or belief systems that no longer serve a purpose for you because they're holding you back now. Maybe it's, I avoid social situations because I feel anxious and I'm anxious because of this. But now I need to be out networking to do X, Y, and Z. And so it's how do we shift that, right? How do we understand like your innate being, your behavior, and then the things that are working, not working to go shift them. And that's really where we work. And so what I do is my job, it's not a hard job, it's an exciting job, but I have to figure out how do I break through from your conscious logical mind that's going, well, I have an association in my subconscious, right? That I've seen stage shows, I've watched the movies, I've heard about hypnosis, it's scary. So why am I going to let this woman into my head? And that's where I need to like break down things for everybody is how do we get in there? So what happens in a session with me? Let's set the stage here. The first step is I need to not be a creepy person and I need to build trust with you, right? Because the more that you trust me, the more that you're going to open up to me. again, like I said, you would never do, even if I got you into the hypnotic state, you would never do anything you wouldn't want to. Your mind is not disengaged, it is listening. And if I put all of you into hypnosis and I said, I want you to take all of your clothes off and go run around to every event here, if you don't want to do that on any level, you are not going to do that. However, what you would, if there is a part of you that really likes streaking, okay, I have now spoken to that part of you, and that part of you would probably be a willing participant in going and doing that. But if you're not, you wouldn't. But again, you still have the ability to say, no, I don't want to do that, or the logical mind would kick back up. And so again, you're not stuck in the hypnotic states. You are constantly, if something came up, you would be jarred, you would come out, and you'd be like, lady, I'm out of here. We're done. So again, like I mentioned, trust, very important, first and foremost. You also have to have a willingness to participate, right? And that comes with trust, but a willingness to participate also means having an open mind about the process and providing feedback and information. My job, I can ask a million questions, and I've had this happen in session with clients where, they don't want to share. They're like, I just want you to fix me. And I can't. I just can't. I can give very generic and blanketed suggestions based on things that I've seen before or worked with clients on similar issues. But what happens for me is in that preliminary conversation that I'm having with you, I'm going to go through asking questions like, why now? My job is to understand you in context because you are a unique individual who has lived a life of unique experiences. And every experience you had has made you who you are today. And so my job is to strip away this exterior layer of the world around you to understand you at your core, your belief systems, your core values, the things you like, the things you don't like, what makes you angry, your triggers. And then I'm going to start to put you into context based on what it is you like and don't like, right? What in your life is not working for you to get into the roots to shift it. And this is where the conversation is really important, the preliminary conversation of open-ended questions, because I need to get the information from you that you want to hear. That's going to resonate with you, right? So your subconscious language speaks a language unique to you. Now, I can give you, as I mentioned, some common suggestions, and they do work. But the more that I can tailor it to you, so you have a fear of dogs, right? And let's say that you are now dating someone who has a dog, and your goal is that you really want to feel comfortable. But if my goal, because I love dogs and I'm on my agenda, is that I want you to love them. I want you to know that they are so cute and sweet and yummy and cuddly. And that's the suggestion I'm giving you, or I'm giving you a generic script, which I will tell you, I've been to a lot of hypnotherapists. They do exist. You are most likely going to hear those words in your subconscious mind and reject it, right? Your mind does have a critical factor where things go into it to be heard to go, oh, that sounds really good. Or it's going to go, absolutely not. And it's going to bounce it out. So my job is to get that language from you and then go in to negotiate with your mind to go, wouldn't it be nice if we let go of this to get this? And because your mind is like a scale, right? We've all heard about maybe homeostasis in science class, and maybe I'm really digging, but your mind likes to stay the same. It likes what it knows and it doesn't like what it doesn't know. And with coping mechanisms or belief systems, I can't just take it away. It tips the scale. It tips you into unsafe category. If I take away smoking and it's your coping mechanism for stress, and I don't give you something back, you're going to go back to smoking. And so I have to find out from you what it is that you want, what it is that it's going to look like, feel like, taste like, because your mind works in images. It works in it's very hard to predict the future. And that's why we always get anxiety, right? It's like, I don't know what's going to happen. And you start to worry spiral. And so finding these subconscious pieces is very important, and the language of it. So that's what we expect. So in my sessions, I can't speak for every hypnotherapist, but there is a preliminary conversation we're going to have. Why now? Like, why are you in my office now? What brought you here? There's always something that triggered them. They're like, oh, this happened. It's like, oh, I want to know when it started, right? Usually there's a point, and usually we look for like, when was that trauma action? And trauma can be anything from a big T trauma to a little trauma, right? Like for me, I was a crazy finger picker, like crazy. My friends called me hamburger hands. Like it was so gross. And like there are moments where I'll pick up dry skin and it'll bleed. And I'm like, damn it, I did that. But I would sit there like incessantly, like picking at my fingers to the point where they were bloody. I had calluses. It was gross. And I went to see a hypnotherapist. When I tell you I've been in therapy for this, like, and all the therapists were like, we think you just need to be on OCD medication. And I was like, I have no problem with medication, but I was like, that's not the route I want to go. I saw one hypnotherapist for one session. Like, I saw him multiple times, but I saw him for one session for this, and I stopped. Fascinating. Like, it was mind blowing. And I remember going to, like, I'd sit on the couch and like get tools and pick, and like, I kid you not, I went to go get my like cuticle cutters, and I was just like, I don't do that anymore. And I was so blown away. And that was my intro into this. And what was crazy is he regressed me back. I have my own feelings on regression, but he regressed me back to when this all started. And it was actually when I was like 2 years old. Now, I don't know, you don't really remember things at two, like on a logical level, but in the visual that I had, I was so clearly sitting on this carpet in my grandparents' living room that I later had the carpet in college. And I forgot about this college, like the carpet, but I was like, oh my God. Like, and I was scared. I had woken up from a nap and I was alone. And I remember panicking, crying, and that was my trauma. It, again, to an adult, that's a really dumb trauma, right? It's like, well, everyone's in the other room, like, duh. But to my child self, that was frightening. And I remembered that and I locked it in. So I created a couple associations that day. One, I had a fear of being alone. Two, I hated taking naps because I had that fear of waking up alone, that I missed something and everyone would leave me. And I developed anxious coping styles. So interestingly enough, like as we went back through that, what the hypnotherapist can do is reframe that experience for you, right? It's like, well, you're so stuck in that moment, be there. But then it's, what are you missing? What are you not seeing? Where is everybody actually? And the answer was, oh, they're just in the kitchen. And I can't explain it, right? Other than the, what I've just told you, but the proof is in the pudding, right? Like in my visual, I re-scripted that, went to the kitchen and everyone was there. And I just changed, it was like dominoes falling in a row. It just shifted all this stuff for me. And here I am, like today is proof that like these things can shift. Now, from a neurological level, like I'm certainly not a neuroscientist, that's Danielle's job. Um, that wiring, right? It's there. And I created another option that was like, that feels better. Again, right? The giver's gain. I'm letting go of this coping mechanism for one of confidence and security. And that feels great. And that neural pathway is created. This one doesn't die and disappear. You don't get rid of them. It just becomes quieter and quieter and quieter and less fired. Now, there are times when I do get triggered and the picking can come back. It did happen when my grandfather died. The picking came back crazy because apparently, who knew, death was a trigger. But again, we went back in, we cleaned it up, we re-strengthened this pathway, and like here we are today. So hypnosis is like, I'm not going to tell you it is a cure-all. I'm not going to tell you it is a perfect scientific like ribbon on a box, but I can tell you, of the thousands of clients that I've worked with, I have seen some of the most amazing things. Because when it's one thing to talk about it and be aware, right? But it's another thing to actually take that awareness and put it into the subconscious mind, where that all comes into play. And that's why, like, I'm not here to tell you to not go to therapy. I love therapy. I think there is a beautiful coupling between hypnosis and shadow work and meditation and all of these things. It's just making sure that you're seeing the right person at the right time for the right thing and doing the work, right? Because I like to say therapy is going to help you understand from a very aware place what your patterns of behavior into your past are. You're going to raise that subconscious to the conscious mind. And then hypnosis is going to help you take that and bring it back down into behavioral shifts. And so you get this sort of full circle. And like, it's a wonderful modality to couple together. Um, I can't speak more highly of it. And so what works for one person, that's why when I started my spa up in New York, I really wanted there to be all these different crazy modalities where it's like, if therapy is not working for you, try this biofeedback brain mapping. If, you know, acupuncture is not working for you, try cranial sacral. And it was a really cool experience to go through. And I'm happy to share some of the crazier stories of what I've seen in my office, and some of the even crazier stories I'm saving for a book of like the weird stuff that's happened. But it's just, I can't speak more highly of hypnosis. And obviously what I do. So I'm going to talk about. All right, so let me break just quickly because I just like threw a lot at you. Time check me. That's it? Okay, good. Does anyone have any questions before I keep going? Yes.
I know said that you weren't really going to go into regression.
Oh, yeah.
But I just have a question about your experience maybe with the past life regression.
Sure. I will never knock past life regression. What I will say is it wasn't a modality I ended up going into. At the beginning, obviously, when you're practicing, you practice everything and you take it on because you're practicing, right? I ended up getting a lot of people coming for past life regression because the Brian Weiss book had come out, Many Lives, Many Masters, that follows like a young girl who goes through regression, and it became really popular and people are like, I want to do that. What I learned in that is that I've had past life regression, so I can speak to it personally and from a professional angle. My past lives were fascinating. Like, I went from being in the Civil War where I had gangrene in my arm and they had to cut my arm off, and the message I received was, don't worry about cutting off things that no longer serve you. Cool. However, what I realized in my private practice was a lot of people left sometimes very disappointed. And this is my experience. Again, it could have been me. It could have just been that I'm not good at it. I don't know. Um, but my feeling was not everyone is a very strong visualizer. Um, there's a block. There's also the strong expectational barrier that you have to break down, because people are expecting to come out speaking like another tongue or having these crazy past lives, and not every past life is necessarily like this thrilling experience. And so some people leave really disappointed.
I think my question, sorry, I was asking it and then something. But have you found that when you're like digging into and people talk about things that have happened to get them from point A, that oftentimes there are experiences outside of their current life that have like impacted the way they see things currently in their life, and they can't really make sense of it in their conscious mind.
So yes and no. So if I understand, the question is, while they're in the hypnotic state, have they had a past life flash up that expresses something to them? Okay. I don't typically give a suggestion about that to have that necessarily come up. If that's a takeaway that they get to, sometimes that can be true, but I don't typically suggest that in a hypnotic state unless the client has brought maybe it up pre-chat that they're open to it into it. Because I could say maybe this is from a past life, and again, if they're not into past life, or some religions really don't believe in it and it can be very triggering, they might reject that, triggers them, I've lost their trust, and then we're done. Danielle can speak if you want to jump in on past life stuff more deeply.
We just really just short this a little bit. We're talking about subconscious and unconscious, and past lives fall into the unconscious category because they're not something that you're consciously thinking about. But if we do regress, we get there. So yeah, it can absolutely
come up.
Like Alex's regression back to when she was 2. Our brain is always formulating experiences, but it's not categorizing them into working memory as something you need to hold on to, so most people don't actively remember until they're around 5 or 6 years old. But everything that's ever happened to you is in your head. Every license plate you've ever seen, we put you under, you'll recall every single one of them. So past lives are there, and they could be, like, even like the gangrene example, could be something that's hitting you in the now. And that's part of the reason why when she talks about breaking down an old neural pathway with hypnosis, it's not done. With shadow work, which is a different, but kind of like parallel technique, it severs the old one. It just is about how deep you go. And depending on what the issue is, hypnosis might be a better fit.
Yep, we've passed clients back and forth for sure, where it's, I think this is a better fit, going deeper. Regression work, my feeling with regression work is because, and this is an important distinction, I am not a licensed therapist. I want to be clear with everyone. I don't find that to be like a, whoa, that's crazy, but it does give me a lane in which I work. So I'm not going to necessarily work with bipolar or heavy depression or anything that has a medical etiology unless I have a referral or someone is working under the care of a licensed professional too. So, so with regression, the interesting thing that I've also like noticed and seen, it has been, if you are not careful in regression work, because the subconscious mind is it wants to fill in gaps, right? It wants to create a full story so it can resolve it and move forward. If you're in the regress state and there are gaps in the story and a hypnotherapist or therapist or anybody asks a leading question, it can plant a seed of what an interpretation to that person in the hypnotic state of what are they inferring, and let me fill in the story. And it can create false memories. And this is why it's been thrown out in a lot of like court cases. Hypnosis can be brought in, but it can be thrown out for the regression stuff because it can create a false memory. However, I had a friend lose her engagement ring. She's like, it's been gone for like 6 months. My husband's going to kill me. We did a hypnosis session. She's like, I know exactly where it is. And it was right there. So it can help you like recall these things and bring them up because they do exist in your mind. Right.
It's all there.
It's all there. It's all there. Does that answer it? Okay, good. What's your name? Goman. Perfect. Anyone else have any questions? Hi.
You mentioned in a prior example about like, I don't know if this is or it could be real, about group hypnosis.
I have. Group hypnosis is a really interesting thing, right? Because the way that I typically function in a private practice is that I can really dig into like you and specifically what you're looking to work on. Group hypnosis, you're kind of pulling back a bit to do more generalized suggestions and finding out, again, in the group talk, like some of the common things people are looking for. You can also have them journal, and then it's like you give them the cue. It's like, now I want you to think about what you had written on that paper and say it to yourself to get it sort of triggering in. It's just a different experience because it is a group energy, right? I've always had a hard time with group experiences because I get so keyed into who's breathing heavy and who's snoring. I'm like, it's hard to manage a lot of energy sometimes, but I tend to find that my group experiences are more like a meditation in some ways than they are a deep hypnotic session. And I think that's an interest. If that answers your question, I'll jump also into a lot of people ask, what's the difference between meditation and hypnosis? And it's a really great question because the truth is they're actually a bilateral path together to the subconscious, right? They're both going to have you relax the body, relax the mind, get focused, get clear, except we do it in a little bit of a different way, but the goal is to get the subconscious open. It's here where they deviate paths. It's hypnosis. We're going to go in and tell you what to do and what to see and what to feel and what to look for and experience. Meditation can typically will leave you to self-extrapolate without judgment on like what life could look like, but I go in to negotiate. Again, hypnosis, a lot of people come to my office, they're like, I'm a terrible meditator. And I'm like, why? Tell me why. Because again, I like to get data. And they might say, I have a really hard time quieting my mind. And I'm like, great. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, I don't want to quiet your mind. I actually just want to focus it. So my job is to utilize your mind to say, let's give you the right things to think about. And before you know it, you're going to be in the hypnotic state. So it's just a different, it's same, like in theory, a lot of it's very similar. Um, the other thing, I just did a YouTube video on this because I like to teach also, and I do mentoring for hypnosis students, is in hypnosis, I do not typically have people focus on their breath. And that to a lot of people is kind of shocking. Like, why? Because the breath actually, when we take a deep breath, we can start turning on the like nervous system to calm down. And that's true. But if you think about this, your breath is natural. You do not, it's automatic, right? We don't think every day about our breathing techniques and patterns and stuff. We take control of our breath through our conscious mind. And so it's a great thing to use at the beginning of a session to start triggering in your nervous system to get that to start calming. But if you ask someone in the hypnotic state to focus on their breath, one thing that happens is the breathing pattern becomes very shallow. It almost looks like and feels like you're not breathing. That client is going to go, oh my God, I can't. They're going to get frustrated. You've also, think about this, you're trying to get into the subconscious. You've now triggered the conscious mind to kick back in by thinking about the breath. And so that's why, like, it's good at the beginning. I would never do it at the end. Also, with anxious clients, you can get them totally wound up and freaked out that they're having I've seen like panic attacks happen because like a mentee of mine came in and they were like, girl had a panic attack in my chair. And I was like, well, what happened? She's like, I told her to take a deep breath. And I was like, oh, she thought she wasn't breathing. Like, and it's really, really creepy if anyone's experienced that. For the breath, again, light. Um, any other questions? I mean, I can talk for hours, so like just keep hitting me with them. A really good question. So if you would ask me 10 years ago, I always turned down phone sessions unless I knew the client. Um, COVID hit and I changed my practice a lot. Now, you certainly can do a phone session, you can do Zoom. Here's the disadvantages and the advantages to it. One, when you're one on one with a client, I can watch your body language. Your body talks, right? Like I can see right now you're agreeing with that because your head's bobbing, like on a subconscious level, something not got acknowledged. I can see that on a Zoom call. What I can't see is, are your feet tapping, right? Like, did your breathing pick up? Did your pupils dilate? Am I triggering something like in you, right? So these are the things that like I get lost in translation. I prefer in person always, but I do accommodate to Zoom because what happens when you're going into the hypnotic state are a couple different things. The first is when you're in the awake state. Jeez, Marla, be quiet. When you're in the awake state, I can tell when I've triggered a client into like the awake hypnotic state because their eyes glaze over. How many times have you talked to a friend and they're like kind of sitting there, eyes glazed over, and like you're like, are you here? That's hypnosis. Then you can get their eye pupils get bigger when they get excited or when they get fearful. They might get bigger too. What are the other ones? I can also notice when I'm asking you questions, where are you going, right? Like when the eyes look up, there's a couple different ways they can go left or right, but it's like typically they're beginning to create. You're tapping the subconscious, right? They're like, oh, that's an interesting question. I really like that. They're looking up. Or if you're like, tell me about when your mom died, right? Like eyes go down. You can feel the energy go down. Once you're going into the hypnotic state, we have the eyes closed. The eyes flutter up and down first. So like that sometimes you can bypass that depending how quickly you get the person into the state, but the eyes flutter up and down, they rock side to side, and then they roll up and inward. And I'll show you a cool test we can do to see how hypnotizable you are. But those are some of the first things that happen. The breathing gets shallow, the skin flushes out. Literally, the body becomes dead weight. And you can see that all in the body. Like if you're holding tension, where you're holding tension, you can see the body slump. and like shift. You can see the jaw become slack. Breathing patterns I mentioned. If you're using what's called a GSR machine, it's a machine that measures the electricity in your fingers. So as you begin to relax, like you can it begins to calm you can actually measure the body calming down through this machine because of the like how moist your body becomes and the sweat you're producing on a micro level. So there's ways that I can train people with a biofeedback mechanism to go, okay, put your fingers here. Now think of this. Does that trigger you? And it'll go up. Or, put your fingers here. Think about this. Does it go down? And I can go, okay, see, you're doing it. And it just gives them a positive feedback loop. Like, that's a good thing. You're doing it. There's a lot of things that the body does, but you can do it for sure. The hypnotherapist might miss what's called an abreaction. Again, if someone's in a hypnotic state, I had mentioned, I'm trying to think of a good example of this. Actually, I can use mine. When I was in the hypnotic state with my therapist, your body becomes like, when you're sleeping and your body's just heavy and you're like running in your dream and your body's like twitching. What happens is your body is going to respond before your mouth does. So if I said to you, I'm going to put a needle in your arm, your body's going to twitch and flitch, right? If I think about a needle right now, my legs tingle, your body responds. So in what's called an abreaction state, my therapist put me in the hypnotic state. And then he asked me a question and I started tapping my hand like this. I had no idea I was tapping my hand like this until he said, what's coming up? And I wouldn't talk either. When he asked me a question, I was tapping my hand. He goes, I want you to draw your attention to your hand. I want you to tell me what's going on. And I was like, it's my way of saying, I don't want to talk about it. It's uncomfortable. And he's like, okay, relax your hand. And I let it go. And he reframed the question. So if you ask a question that triggers a client, you can see it in their body. You can sometimes, like if you've really lost a client, but they are in the hypnotic state, they'll turn away from you. And it's just like body language. Or you'll see maybe the hands touching, twitching, feet tapping. I had one client where we were doing a nonverbal, like he was not talking, I was talking, but he started going like this with his face. And I stopped and I was like, I think there's something you want to tell me. And he was trying to talk to me. And I just said, let's stop the session. Like, go ahead and calmly, quietly, just share. And he's like, I really love that. Can you go back and say more about that? And so, like, again, he could have done it, but again, like sometimes you're just so deep in it that your mind's like, I think I'm doing it, but I'm not. But I'm like, trust you fully that I don't want to leave the state either. If I was saying something awful, he would have easily just opened his eyes and been done with it. That answer probably more than you asked for, but any other questions? Yeah.
This is my first foray into hypnosis. Is there anything you recommend to learn more?
Yeah. So much more. I have a YouTube channel. If you're a member here, I'd love to have coffee with you. Um, I would say, like, depending on what you want to learn, there's like so many resources out there. If you wanted to become a hypnotherapist, all the way to just like lightly learning about it, I think a lot of it is learning. Again, like there's so many different resources out there. I would be like, I'm like, I can't think, but you could certainly go to my YouTube channel. Go Burble will tell you a lot of stuff too if you just want to experience it from home, and then we'll get coffee. Okay, good. Any other questions? Lady in the back. Hi, Stephanie. It's a great question. There is no right or wrong time to do hypnosis. Again, I find when you are so stressed out and it is so ultimate that you're just like almost erratic, it's probably not a great time to do it. And the reason is that you just might need to digest everything a little bit to step back. It's kind of like when you're so pissed off and stressed out and someone's like, hey, just calm down. And you're like, fuck you, I don't want to calm down, right? Like, maybe not a good time to do hypnosis either. So personally, I really like to do it in the middle of the afternoon because I'm kind of tired anyway, and that can influence my ease of going into the hypnotic state. I think going to bed is a great time to do it because you're already laying there on your way into the sleep state. You might as well utilize that time to create some change and influence everything. And it's that time right before you fall asleep. We've always called it in like the hypnosis world the magic five. It's kind of like if you want to influence your brain while you're sleeping, give it a suggestion before you go to bed. It's the last thing you think about. So you can digest that too. I know with Go Burble, you can pick the ending when you custom. Burble is an app where you can custom create your own session in 5 steps. So you get to pick your ending also. It always bothered me when I was like, I don't want to wake up. I want to go to bed. Now you're telling me to wake up. So you can pick what you want to, how you want to end it, so that you can just drift into the sleep state too. So again, try it. Every day is going to be different because sometimes when you're stressed out, your mind is already overstimulated and overloaded that it sometimes just needs that kick over the edge to get into the hypnotic state. It just depends if you're a willing participant in that time. Because again, if your mind's going, I'm just not over it, I'm just not over it, like you're still pissed, it just, me telling you what to do or hypnosis telling you what to do you might not just be ready to relax. But morning's also nice, right? Your mind's fresh, your mind's clear. But I would say a couple things when you're looking for a hypnotherapist. If you want to work in person, it's really important. Most people don't know this. Find someone. There's the difference between I know how to hypnotize someone and I went to school for hypnotherapy and it was more than a week class, right? Be careful where you buy your certifications from, right? Anyone can certify you in this world. There are accredited programs that will provide certification and diplomas and stuff on this because once you get, it's easy to get someone into the hypnotic state. It is it's a skill to know what to do with them when they're in there. And I think that goes back to a really quick story. When I was starting to practice, I actually made a client cry and I was like, oh my God. And I totally like flipped out, called my mentor and was like, I don't know what to do. And like, he's like, well, that's not a bad thing. And like, we had to work through it. But again, like knowing what to do with someone when that happens, or what happens when you trigger someone to a past memory that's really traumatizing and you don't know how to shift it or you don't know what to do. They leave your office and now you've triggered them. Like, that's not a great look. So just make sure you find out like their certification, their practice, like where they learned, etc. as well. And then again, if you want, there are clinical hypnotherapists out there. There are medical hypnotherapists. There are hypnobirthing hypnotherapists. There are people who specialize in everything as well. So, and then there are apps like Burble. Any other questions? Time check, maybe. Okay, perfect. So next one. Okay, so this is kind of cool. It's something that you could do. I suggest partnering up with a friend because, or you can video yourself doing it home later. It's called the Spiegel eye roll test. Now, as I said, everybody can be hypnotized. You go into hypnosis when you're watching movies. You're probably a little hypnotic right now. You get hypnotized when you're reading a book. But if you want to know how naturally hypnotizable you are, it's the Spiegel eye roll test. You're going to keep your head straight. You're going to look directly ahead. And the goal is that you're going to look all the way up. And then with your chin straight, because you're going to want to move it, you're going to lower your eyelids down while your eyes are looking up. It's a weird feeling. The more that they roll up and inward, the more hypnotizable you are. And it's funny to watch you all because y'all look really kooky. Don't worry, we won't post this. But what's crazy is I've had clients in my office who I kid you not, it was so creepy. He was sitting in the chair and he like went into the hypnotic state. His eyes were fully open and his eyes were rolled up and all I saw was the whites of his eyes, and I had to do the whole session with him like staring at me like that. And I was like, Sir, eyelids down. But again, just because you're maybe not a great eye roller in this test, it does not mean you're not suggestible. Everyone can do it. So have fun, play with that with your friends and family. Good party trick. It's like you're hypnotizable. Next one. All right. Has anyone done the lemon test? Okay, cool. Okay, I normally there's at least one person who ruins it for me. But what we're going to do, this is just to show the power of suggestibility. Has everyone tried a lemon before? Okay, cool. Has anyone ever taken a shot of Bragg's apple cider vinegar before? Or just apple cider vinegar in the past? Okay. I see a lot of heads nodding, which is great. Pick either one, try them both, doesn't matter to me. But if you close your eyes, and again, I'm going to tell you, you cannot do this wrong. Close your eyes, and I want you to visualize or imagine that you're standing in your kitchen. And when you're standing in your kitchen, go to the place where you keep your lemons, or maybe you would keep your lemon. Get your cutting board, get a knife, cut the lemon in half, and I want you to take that half of a lemon, put it in your hand. Now with it in your hand, I want you to slowly begin to bring that juicy, sour, tart lemon towards your mouth. And as you bring it up, you're going to take a bite of that lemon in a minute with no sugar, just straight lemon. And then you're going to go ahead and bite into it. And I want you to visualize and imagine you can remember how a lemon tastes. And you might notice your jaw beginning to clench. You might notice your mouth beginning to water. You might begin to salivate. Then I want you to go into where you might keep the apple cider vinegar if you've tried that before. And I want you to pour yourself a nice shot of apple cider vinegar. And I want you to go ahead and smell, bring it up toward your nose and smell it. Remember that tart, almost rancid smell. And then I want you to take it, just take a sip of it, a big old sip. And it goes down and it burns and your mouth tastes funny. Okay. Now I want you to just come back into the room with me. Go ahead, open your eyes. How many people could taste the lemon? Like got a reaction, jaw maybe tight or clenched, nodding heads. Yes. I have to tell you, you went right into the hypnotic state and I could see the white of your eyes. Yes.
Oh, great.
Yeah, you're very
Full disclosure, I was nervous because, I don't know what it is, but ever since I've gotten into this room, my foot has been itching. When you were talking, I was just like, am I reacting psychologically to not wanting to be
possibly
hypnotized?
That's
So
your subconscious language talking. Go ahead and itch your foot, girl.
It's I don't even know why. It's just been itching, and I'm
Sounds like her tapping her hand.
okay.
Could be.
Something's trying to come through.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, how about the vinegar? I actually saw a couple people being like, now, just because you didn't visualize it, also, I ran through that very quickly. Normally, I would sit and go, let me be very descriptive. Let me walk more slowly. Let me give you time. I would pace it better. But again, these are the things that there's no lemon here. There's no vinegar here. Your mind remembers what those taste like, feel like, look like, smell like, and you're triggering it. So the theory is if I can have you elicit that response without it being here, could we not create a new pathway for it too? And that's what you do with things like fear of flying, right? We're going to give you a new pathway. I had a girl who literally would not get on a plane for her brother's wedding and took a bus cross country, got held up at gunpoint, and still wouldn't get on a plane and came to my office and now flies everywhere. And I'm like, yeah. She was shocked. She's like, you're never going to get me on a plane. I was like, I'm going to get you on a plane, but only if you want to get on a plane. So that's the idea is suggestibility, right? I'm suggesting something to you and your body's creating a response in return. Okay, next one. This was supposed to be a video of the watch, but okay. So skip this one. Don't look at this. Good. Okay, we've all seen the hypno swirl, right? What's that about? It's crazy. It really is nothing more than what we're calling. So to get some people, here's what happens in a stage show. They are looking for who wants to come up here, right? If you wanted to come up here, you'd raise your hand. So first, that's the power of I'm looking for who wants to come up. Then what I'm going to do is say, okay, I bring them up and I'm going to slowly start feeding them information quickly, rapidly, and seeing who's suggestible, who's like following the instructions. I'm going to tap people out and get them out. Teenagers are a little different because, again, they don't have that critical mind factor as much, so they're much easier to hypnotize. Children are just in a hypnotic state all the time, literally. But with this, what you're doing is you're stimulating the mind. I don't know if anyone's ever seen what's called a rapid induction. It's you'll see the hypnotist talking with someone. They're holding their hands. They're like, oh, blah, 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 and they're rapid firing at them. What's happening is you are so stimulating the mind to the point, and it's kind of like heavy trauma, right? Like when heavy trauma happens, you sort of like your mind just sort of shuts down because it has to get through it and it'll digest it later. But it's like you are bombarding the brain to the point where it's like, I just need an out. And then they'll take you by the back of the neck and pull you and go sleep. And you're giving the cue of sleep, but it's like, oh, I know sleep. I know that sleep feels good. And they literally just fall and like crumble. And that's a rapid induction. But the hypno swirl is the same thing. It's what we're doing is having you focused here, right in the center. Now, there are certain illusional effects to some of it that you're going to see the swirl begin to move, but it doesn't even matter if it begins to move or not. What's happening is as you're looking at it and you lock your eyes on it, I am overstimulating your brain while I'm also talking to you, telling you to imagine the lights, thinking about this. Your eyes are beginning to blink. The harder you try to keep them open, the harder it becomes. And the mind is just getting tired, right? And that's where we can then go and close your eyes. And the mind's like, that feels nice. And I like that. And you begin to relax into it more. And the idea is that you've become also suggestible to me. I might even have you then open your eyes again to look at the spot, because then your mind goes, wait, I want to go back to the relaxation. So weirdly, hypnosis is not a whoop. It can be, but typically in an office, it's like you're going down. I trigger you up a bit, and then you go down more. There's like an incremental gain down and down. So these are, again, you're getting the mind to focus outside of itself into the environment, onto a spot. When you get out of your head, you begin to quiet, the mind begins to quiet too. Then we're overstimulating the mind, bringing it up to then let it relax down and go into the hypnotic states. So one tool that you can use with yourself anytime is if you're feeling overstimulated, like just find a spot on the wall. Therapists tell you this all the time. It's like find 5 things in their room. It's like, okay, the light is this. I teach a lot of, like I've taught other hypnotherapists where it's like, just use the eye fascination to get them down. And if you do like, look at this spot for a minute, and as you do, like think about your eyes getting heavy, play around with like, I can get them to be very clear. I can also get it to feel very unfocused, and then close your eyes and you might notice that your eyes are wobbling. You're in a hypnotic state. And that's where you can give yourself suggestions, self-suggestions of what it is you want to feel. Please frame them in a positive thing. Try not to use words like no or don't. The more positive you are, the more that the mind can take it in with like a good anabolic energy to build you up. So that's the eye fascination. We don't have to do this. That's not that exciting. So that concludes our talk. This is my app, Go Burble. Again, it's a